Week 17 is in the books. The Falcons, at worst, have the number 4 pick in the NFL draft, as we just lost to the Buccaneers 44-24. I just lost the score that quick. 44-27.
Thanks for
So,
joining the preseason wrap-up show, or the postseason wrap-up show.
you know, for once, the Falcons didn't Falcon themselves out of a pick. We did what we were supposed to do. The season's over. There was nothing to play for. And we know winning at the end of the season does nothing, evidenced by Dan Quinn. So we secured a number 4 pick at worst. Depending on how the Texans play here, we could be as high as the number 3 pick. So this is a franchise-changing pick that was on the line, and we did what we needed to do. What did you guys, let's not go too in-depth about the season, but more so on the game. What did you guys see in this game that, led to the outcome? What were the key deciding factors that you think led to that big of a disparaging score or that big of a gap, Marco?
Well, first, I want to say I think last week we figured it out. Dirk Cutter, the game has to be close or close, and he'll call a good game. He'll call a good game. He won't do egregiously terrible things. So it was another decent looking game for Dirk. Besides that, Todd Gurley on the goal line 2 times in a row. I didn't understand that after he's been terrible. And Brian Hill just broke off a 60-yard run. Got rest on first down, but for some reason we didn't put it back in. But Hayden scored anyway. But then I think the reason that we couldn't keep up with their scoring is that there was a Fowler sighting, but still our D-line was at a total point of exhaustion, breaking point, nothing to play for. You know what I mean? And, that's been the worst part of our team the whole season. And I think today it just came to a head like, okay, yeah, we're not getting any pressure on Tom Brady at all, even though we finally got 1 sack from Fowler in the, third or fourth quarter. I think it was the fourth quarter. And that's the reason. We just got 0 pressure. Tom Brady was looking young as hell out there. He's looking like a 28-year-old spry, just, out there patting the ball, jumping around, running left to right. He's like, got him. And then also Mike Evans got hurt, but they replaced him with one of the best receivers in NFL history. So
right. Oh no, Mike Evans went down. Here you go. Here's Antonio Brown. What? Micah, what'd you see in this game?
Simple, but Tom Brady had more time to throw. Like, I used to talk about it back in the day when he used to play for the Patriots, how much time he'd have in the pocket on some time and like on plays. That's what it looked like. He was just sitting there patting the ball, looking at the field, up first read. That's taken. Second read, okay. Let me go third read. And it's like, bruh, come on. Like, even when we did start to collapse the pocket on him, it was just like, all right, step up. All right, 5 more seconds. So, I mean, no pass rush whatsoever. Gurley got way too many snaps this game. Even though he didn't get the leading number of carries. I mean, it's obvious he's done. I mean, even on that one pass play where I think he got like a 20-something yard reception. Dude looked like he was running in place almost. Yeah. And so, like, that it was just just a lot of bad mistakes. And with as many weapons as they have on the receiving end, you can't give Brady that much time. So, I mean, that's really what I saw.
I feel like Brady did or had the effect that he's had on defensive coordinators for so many years, and that's them being afraid to put pressure on him because he'll kill the blitz.
Yeah.
So people just drop back, 7 or 8 in coverage and hope that 4 gets home on him. And if you had 2 Grady Jarretts in the middle and, some even just decent defensive ends on the edge, you can do that because the way to kill Brady is pressure up the middle. But when you're not getting pressure with your front, you got to blitz him. You have to. You can't just sit back and let him have 4 to 5 seconds in the pocket because he will kill you. There is no other quarterback in the league except for maybe I'll say league history that will kill you more than Tom Brady with that much time.
Mm-hmm.
He's just too smart. He knows the defenses too well. He knows where the reads are going to come or where the routes are going to pop open and when they're going to pop open. You very rarely see him take a misstep when he's stepping up in the pocket. Like if he steps up in the pocket, he's going to roll to the side where the play is developing. You never see him roll to the side where it's not developing and then he's stuck. Like that one where he threw to AB. Well, maybe Scotty Miller, but it wound up being an AB touchdown. He knew that he was going to come over on a crossing route and be open there. So he's just too good for that. And I feel like we got scared of him and we didn't blitz him. We got out of what made us successful in the past couple of weeks. Because I saw Dion go on a delayed blitz twice, and I saw Foye go on a blitz once, and that was about it. You didn't see Kiki go on a blitz. You didn't see much of that.
I saw it early. Early on in the game, we blitzed quite often, and every time he got the ball out and hit Mike Evans or somebody quick, and I guess that was enough for Ulbrich to just all right, no, we're not gonna, we can't get there fast enough to hit him. So,
I mean that's gonna happen though when you blitz from time to time. You're gonna give up some plays here and there, but if you're gonna be a blitzing team, you gotta be a blitzing team. You can't choose when to be a blitzing team.
Oliver blitzed early as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. I mean, we got him once, and that was really just on a bad block by who's their left tackle? Not Donald Penn anymore. It's I can't remember his name. Is
it Donovan? I can't remember his last name.
Yeah. Regardless, it was just a missed block on him, and he's been their worst block. He's been one of the worst blocking left tackles in the league all season. He's been getting Brady killed on a lot of snaps, and that's where I expected us to attack, but we just didn't do it. So, unless there's a whole lot more that y'all want to talk about on this game, I think we should direct our attention to the future. Do y'all have anything else about the game that y'all want to point out? Because it was really just it was close for a second, but you never really felt like the Falcons were in it to win it.
Yeah.
Even when we pulled within 3, it was kind of okay, well, they're probably going to drive back down and score. Y'all have any other?
I did see Matt for one of the first times this season throw an anticipatory pass. Before I think it was Gage, before he came out of his break, he threw it to the right, and I was like, wow, Matt. It's like watching Tom on the sideline over there or something.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that's what we're supposed to do. You can throw guys open.
Right. And then we used a similar play to get Hayden to score today. Hayden scored twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we used
in the last first 3 games. He scored 3 times.
Right, the first time, and then the second time was an old Hooper kind of hookup. So that gives me hope that when Dirk's gone, maybe we'll implement him more.
We'll see. Hayden's too athletic. I mean, we've been talking about it offline all year as to how good Hayden is and how athletic he is, and it's just ridiculous that we don't use him. But
yeah.
And then Treadwell came across the middle getting grabbed.
Boy.
We had a cape on.
He should have had another touchdown.
Yeah.
One thing I did see though is, like I said, Gurley got too many snaps. I think Brian Hill showed a little burst y'all need to bring me back one more season. Ito, of course, I mean, you're gonna bring him back, but I mean, we still are gonna need a true workhorse, in my opinion. If there's some way we can get Najee Harris early in the second, yeah, I think that would round out some of our problems on offense.
Do you think Najee's gonna survive the first? I mean, I know the other dude's a Heisman candidate, but I mean, Najee's been.
That's the thing. Because Najee's hands are good, and he's got some size, he's got speed. He might be one of those guys that gets drafted early, but considering where the direction the league has gone in, where running backs have lost so much value, I think and it's such a strong quarterback driven draft. I think offensive linemen and quarterbacks are going to go. They're going to be some DBs that go in the first round. So there's a slight chance. Oh, and then you got like Micah Parsons. You got a couple linebackers. So there's a slight chance that he could possibly fall to the second round. If not, I mean, we might be able to package a couple of picks together and maybe see if we can move back into the late first and get him if we have to. But if he drops to the second, I'd definitely love to get him.
I think I agree. I mean, you see some mock drafts here and there throw him in there in the first round, and of course, mock drafts aren't really representative of what happens in the NFL anymore, just because it's the NFL draft. You got people who are going to make picks that you never see coming, i.e., Chris Lindstrom.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's never indicative of what's going to actually happen in a draft, but I would be shocked to see Najee Harris go in the first round. You could probably see him even slip into the late second if we don't grab him early, just because running backs don't have that intrinsic value anymore.
But that guy's, I feel like he's
he's special for sure.
Yeah, he's special.
Well, I mean, look at last year though. I mean, Swift and what was it? I can never remember the back's name from Ohio State last year. He was on a Ravens.
J.K. Dobbins,
yeah. Those guys were front runners. Jonathan Taylor was a front runner for to be the first running back drafted. And then the one who wound up being drafted was Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Late first round.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, I mean, and he was the guy who ran the worst 40 out of the group and, had the least of the just intrinsic running numbers. But, I mean, so you never know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, CEH has definitely had an impact this year, but I would say the other two still have had more of an impact on the season, especially Dobbins down the stretch here has gone off, and Taylor's just been a workhorse the whole season.
Swift.
Yeah, Swift has a really good season.
Even though the Lions are terrible, Swift has put up a very solid rookie season for him.
I agree.
Ever since that drop touchdown, he's been on a tear.
Yeah. So let's look at the playoff picture real quick. Kind of look at some of these matchups before we move on. So in the AFC, you got the Kansas City Chiefs have wrapped up their first round bye. They'll be the 1 seed. Then you'll possibly have the Colts play the Bills. The 4 and 7 seed are in flux in both divisions. So it really depends on what these games that are going on right now as we speak, how they play out. So the Colts or the Dolphins could play the Bills. The Dolphins definitely don't want to see the Bills after what the Bills just did to them.
They're out. I feel like they're not going to make it.
Dolphins needed a lot of help, I thought, though.
Yeah, they needed
the Colts to lose.
And they needed to win.
Baltimore won. I think they needed Baltimore.
Baltimore's in as the 5. They are the 5 now.
Oh, okay. And then Browns. I think the Browns too.
Browns are 6.
Browns are in now.
Yeah, and then the
7. Happy for the Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only fitting in 2020 that the Buccaneers and the Browns make the playoffs.
What it didn't Micah say that he's like, it's gonna be Baker's gonna have an MVP season, but it's gonna get canceled because of COVID.
So as it stands right now, we'll just call it Colts Bills, Browns at Steelers, and the Browns barely beat the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger and a bunch of other starters out. So that's probably not a good matchup for them. And then Ravens versus, we could get Ravens Titans again. Oh, Brandon. Your season could end with another 220-yard game by Derrick Henry. NFC, you've got Packers looking to wrap up the first round bye. If they don't win and the Saints win, the Saints will get the first round bye. So those two could flip places. And if the Bears win, then they'll get the Packers again, but in Lambeau. But right now it's Bears at Saints, Rams at Seahawks, and then Bucks at the winner of the NFC East.
Wait, so if the Bears lose and the Rams win, aren't the Bears out?
If the Bears, what was the question?
Bears lose, Rams win, aren't the Bears out of the playoffs?
If the Bears lose, they could still be out. The Cardinals could take their place.
Right. If the Rams, the Cardinals have to win. Okay.
Right. I would honestly rather see the Cardinals anyway. They're a more exciting brand of football.
Definitely.
Although Trubisky, since coming back, has been really good for them, but they've been using Montgomery a lot more. What are you about to say, Mike?
6-2.
Nah, I made that preseason prediction that he'd be balling out of his mind when the season got canceled.
Yes.
And ever since they brought him back in, he's been playing amazing.
I mean,
they still might not make the playoffs.
The game he got yanked against us, I didn't get it.
Yeah,
I didn't get it. He wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he got hurt or something. Apparently, because I know he was on the sideline acting hurt. So
his feelings might have been hurt.
I think it was like a well-timed injury. So it looked as if, because I think there was some ambiguity as to why he actually got benched.
Like he threw the pick six.
Yeah.
And then
to Oliver.
No, I think it might have been Bleedy.
Yeah, you're right.
And then the next drive they brought in Nick Foles. So, and I mean, like I said, he didn't play a terrible game. He made one bad pass, and they were like, "Nope, you're done."
He was on the
Nick
short leash.
brought him back, but he's 6-2 as the start of the season. I mean, shit.
Who, Trubisky?
Yeah,
he's been really good, and he gives them that offensive threat on the ground. An option game. So, what's the matchup that y'all are most excited to see across the play? You can give me a couple if you want.
That's tough. So if who's the 2 seed right now?
In where?
If in the NFC.
NFC or the Saints?
Saints are the Packers.
Because I know the Seahawks and the Saints have the same record.
Yes.
But I didn't know who was the 2nd seed.
Who won the Saints didn't play the Seahawks.
Yeah. I don't know. Like whoever I really wanted to see Saints Bucks first round, but that's not going to happen. So the one game I don't want to see is, I'll tell you straight up, game I don't want to see is whoever the Bucks play in the first round. Because whoever the Bucks play in the first round is going to be somebody from the NFC East.
Redskins.
I want to see them play the football team. I want to see that defensive line get after Brady.
Yeah, but offensively, I mean, is
Alex Smith back or not?
He was expected to play.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know yet but even still, even with Alex Smith, they manage the game. So,
yeah, it's definitely the least exciting matchup for sure.
Yeah, I think the AFC in general, I think most of those matchups will be exciting. NFC, it all depends on where the chips fall, because these could either be very exciting matchups like if the Saints or Seahawks, if the Seahawks get the 2 seed and the Cardinals wind up sneaking in and getting that 7 seed, that could be a very exciting matchup.
That's what I want to see.
But if they wind up playing the Bears, if it's Seahawks Bears, I mean, I think that might be one of the few games the Seahawks might just walk through.
Could we potentially get a Cardinals Saints?
Possible.
Yeah, if the Bears lose and the Cardinals win, they'll take the 7th seed. and you'll get Cardinals Saints first round.
I would love to see that.
So, but I mean, outside of that, a lot of those matchups don't necessarily like. All right, so if that's the matchup, who's the 6th seed again?
The Rams right now.
Rams, Seahawks will be a good game.
That might be like a 3-9 game.
No, wait, no Jared Goff though. So,
backup.
Number 9, I don't know
Bortles.
who's number 9.
Isn't it Bortles still?
Bortles is on the Broncos.
Oh, okay. So
John Wolford.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, no.
For Wake Forest.
No. No, that's not going to be a very interesting game.
He's currently
he's running.
Interception.
That boy is that Wolford? He got some wheels. I just saw him take off and get a first down.
Most Wake Forest quarterbacks do, because they know whoever they bring in is going to be behind a porous offensive line. So you got to be able to move.
Run for your life.
I think the one I was hoping on, but it was the Cardinals sneak in and they see the Saints, and then also, I alluded to it earlier, the Titans and Ravens, just because the Ravens literally spent their entire offseason cap space on stopping Derrick Henry. So they also apparently have interest in bringing in Snacks as well, because he got cut from the Seahawks and they want to use him. So if Brandon Williams goes out, they'll just throw Snacks in.
What is wrong? What is wrong with Snacks? Because he went from one of the top,
not one of the top nose tackle.
Yeah, no, like nose tackle to just run stuffers in the league to now he can't stay on the team.
I think the league changed. You don't see it. I mean, unless you're in the AFC South or really the NFC North doesn't even run it like that, or the AFC North doesn't run like that anymore. There's not a lot of running teams. The Browns, the Titans.
Matt Patricia broke him.
So I think that's where he kind of fell to the wayside. All right. Let's see. So as I mentioned earlier, we right now are the 4th seed, and let's move forward thinking we're the 4th seed, because the Texans just pulled within 4, so it's 10-6 now. So this is a close game. So if the Texans lose, we'll be the 4th seed for sure. If they win, we'll sneak all the way up to the 3.
Deshaun just got accordioned.
Oh. So let's move forward thinking we're the 4th pick. I know we've talked about this before, and I know, week to week things change, because a lot of people were saying, oh, Justin Fields is going to fall all the way down to 10, and then Justin Fields just destroyed Clemson, so I'm sure his stock just skyrocketed again. But if you are, let's say Arthur Blank decides, Micah and Marco, you are my new GM and head coach combination. Who are we drafting, and what direction are we taking the franchise? You can do whatever scenario you want, because as you heard, the new GM and new head coach are going to have the power to move whoever they want. And there's no one that's on this roster that is untouchable, essentially, unless it's just going to kill our cap penalty. So sell me on the direction of where you're going to take this franchise with a draft pick.
You going first, Marco?
Y'all are a team.
Oh,
we got to work together.
Y'all are the head coach and GM combination.
Okay.
I was about to say we're co-coaches.
Head coach,
no, Steve Nash.
Yeah. You're head coach. I'm GM. So I'm saying there is some. I know there's the cornerback you like a lot, but you said what?
Certain.
But man, the worst problem we have on this team is our defensive line. So I'm probably going to be looking at the talent in the defensive line category, specifically edge rushers. I like the dude from Michigan. I like the I don't really know about Russo because, I mean, like I said, I don't like quitters. But what'd you think, Coach?
I mean,
He's referring to Kwity Paye, by the way.
yeah.
6'4", 277.
Yeah.
Personally,
A freak. He's an athletic freak.
I'm not real big on any of the ends this year. And
Why are you not big on the ends this year, Micah?
I mean, Russo, you don't have you literally have no tape on Russo this year. You know, you haven't seen him. He's taking a whole year off. You don't know what shape he's going to be in, which, I mean, we'll have the combine and everything, but I mean, a year off does affect like how fast you play. So, you know, he's got to get reacclimated to the speed of the game. Not only reacclimated, he's got to adjust to the NFL speed. So that's a strike against him. Kwity Paye, it's been a while since I've seen a Michigan pass rusher that I'm just like, oh my God, that guy is. And with the number 4 pick, I'm not reaching. I'm not going to reach on one of those guys.
There's no such thing as reaching in the NFL draft.
Yes,
You never know.
is.
You never know, man.
Yes, there
you
is.
just never know.
There very much is. Because I mean, like,
reach.
look at a lot. It's a lot of players
besides like Julio and Matt.
I mean, we've reached on a lot of people. I mean, Sam Baker, we got him at 6, and he just never quite lived up to what we picked him.
My problem with taking a cornerback is so my idea here is that if we go edge rusher, you know, there's going to be at least one elite edge rusher in this draft. We just have to find him. You know what I mean? Because there's always at least one. The problem is if we go cornerback, you know, of course, maybe we can backload and find somebody, you know, in the 4th. Because I'm thinking we need to go edge rusher. Then we need to go running back. Then we probably need to go quarterback in the 3rd. And then from there on, you know, just defensive line and O-line. Or if we don't take a cornerback, then we find a quarterback, you know, in the 4th round and up. But I mean, I think that our cornerbacking core and our safety, well, we need a new safety as well. But I think our cornerbacks are pretty, you know, good. They're set.
Well, yeah, but I mean, with no Darquez, we got to find another outside corner to go opposite of, unless you just going to put Sheffield out there. He got picked on a lot. I mean, and Isaiah I trust him more inside where he has help. He plays more confident inside where he has the safeties to help cover him if he does get beat versus outside on an island. So I think we need a legit number 2 corner. What's up?
Oh, I was gonna let you finish, then I was gonna jump in.
Oh, and then but see, my thought process on that is you either go corner because Pat Surtain is he's probably the best defensive player in this draft. Or if Justin Fields is there, you might not be able to pass up on him. Even though
Justin Fields is there, we're throwing everything out the window and we're taking just
I'm about to say, if QB, I mean, even though QB isn't the biggest need,
is it not? I'm just playing.
It's not the biggest need. I mean, he's a beast, and you're not going to. There's no way you can move Matt Ryan to. It's like you're not going to move him because of the cap penalty. So you just let him sit behind him for a year and groom your next quarterback. Or to me, you got 3 options. If Fields is there, you take him. If he's gone, you might look Patrick Surtain. If you don't want to go corner, you got to trade back, and then maybe get Kwity Paye or Russo, depending on how they look and how well they interview and stuff like that. How well they look in pro days and combine, and how they do in their interviews. But other than that, you do not take one of those edge rushers at 4, in my opinion.
I'm not mad at trading back and getting more assets. I'm not mad at that at all.
Mr. GM, I have a question for you. You expect me to spend the 4th overall pick on a defensive end who's very athletic out of the Big Ten, but only has 12.5 career sacks?
I just said I'm not mad at trading back, journalist or whatever role you're playing right now.
I'm Arthur Blank.
Arthur Blank. We need 4 starters, you nincompoops. No, listen.
You want me to spend a top 5 pick on a Big Ten defensive end that's very athletic but that doesn't produce? I want to ask you, have you ever heard of Vernon Gholston?
Vernon Gholston.
You're fired.
No, what was the one that came? What was the last one that came from Michigan at the Packers?
Rashawn Gary.
Yeah, Rashawn Gary. That's another one.
He was the first one because he's actually built exactly like Rashawn Gary. He's about 6'4", 280.
Big body, freak of nature, athleticism, and you haven't heard anything about Rashawn Gary in Green Bay.
He's been quite the disappointment, actually.
Well, the thing is, we need edge rushers, but if we need to trade back and get more assets to do that, I mean, obviously, you don't want to take a guy who's a risk at 4. And if there's a quarterback, the only 2 quarterbacks that are even on my board are Trevor and Justin. And if they're both gone, then it is what it is. But I don't know about taking. Surtain, like you said, he's probably the best defensive player in the thing. But I don't know. I just don't know about taking a cornerback at number 4. But
well, if you could draft. And this is draft comparison right now. And I am not sold on – I agree that drafting corners to fix your pass rush is not how you do it. You always start defensive line forward. But if you had the opportunity to draft Jalen Ramsey to this defense, would you?
At number 4?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jalen Ramsey, I just don't know if that's going to solve our pass rush still.
But then add, pass rushes in rounds 2 through 4. I get what you're saying. I completely agree. I am of the mindset of building the trenches back. But in a draft like this, like Micah stated, it's a very defensive line sparse draft. It's a lot of – last year was your defensive line draft. This year it's kind of like you've got your linebackers and your corners coming out, and you've got your quarterbacks. So,
But here's another thing. Like I was talking to somebody earlier this week about it, and I said, look at the Patriots. They haven't had a lot of dominant edge rushers outside of Chandler Jones, and they let him walk. But what they do is they build up this secondary that's physical and insanely intelligent, and they play so aggressive that like they can constantly send blitzes, and their corners are so good that you still can't you still can't pass against them. And they get sacks based off the fact that their corners are so physical and aggressive, and that's what they take it. That's what they take advantage of. Now, granted, they've been beat on a lot of double moves. Is if you can buy enough time, but most offensive lines aren't good enough, and they disguise their blitzes so well that they get a lot of easy pressures. And they put their corners on islands all the time, and just and quarterbacks, they freak out quarterbacks just off of blitzing and how they create their pressures.
We have someone asking, what do we do if Fields or Trevor stay their senior year? Which I don't think is a possibility, but in my opinion, then you go to either you either look at Surtain. Like I know some people are saying Micah Parsons, but I just linebacker. We are set as far as linebacker, as far as starters for linebacker. So it's no point of getting another blitzing linebacker in there. It doesn't help the situation. And you either get Surtain or you trade back.
Well, I'd say I think nothing really changes if those two decide to stay, because either way we're not in the mode that we're going to get them. You know what I mean? So that doesn't really change anything. But I'm just if we can't get a quarterback, then I think I'm inching towards the trade back idea. But I mean, I don't know. It's just I agree with that. You need a physical secondary, and if anything, that can help you clean up a lot of the mess. But at the same time, the Patriots have had serviceable defensive lines and serviceable pressure. We have, an F grade defensive line. You know what I mean? It's just woeful. It's woeful how bad our defensive line is.
Well, I mean, but here's what I see. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily that bad. I just don't think we're as creative in how we get pressures. Like with them, they do stunts, they blitz from all over the place. They do stunts, they hide their coverage, they roll coverage. They do a lot of different looks that we don't do. We don't stunt at all. Like legitimately, all we do is rush 4 straight up, or we blitz. We always blitz 9 times out of 10. The blitz is coming up the middle from the linebackers. Sometimes we might blitz off the edge, but we're not very creative on how we attack quarterbacks.
But if that's the case, why are we so high on Ulbrich and what he has done to this defense?
Well, because he's finally gotten the production out of like the secondary, and I mean, and the blitzing did help. It helps, your rushes quarterbacks. He's helped force some turnovers, but like as far as, I mean, the Patriots defensive scheming is some of the best in the league. I mean, Belichick has been one of the best defensive schemers you can ever imagine. I mean, he's just that creative. Ulbrich is good. He's just not on Bill and Steve Belichick's level as far as how they attack quarterbacks. I mean, but he's definitely good enough for us to win games with the talent we have.
Let me ask a quick question about linemen, defensive linemen. What do you think is more important for a defensive lineman to have coming out of college? Like strength, power, and athleticism, or skill?
Skill. Because, 40 times, like stuff like 40s and, shifty feet aren't necessarily that necessarily that important. I'd much rather have a guy who can get off blocks or control blockers over a guy who can just once I get off the block, I can run down this quarterback. But, like Vic Beasley, he was all strength and athleticism.
Yeah.
But his technique was terrible, versus
he just hitting the spin button.
Like Haloti Nada, who wasn't a freak of nature athletically. He was big and strong, but or Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald's a freak of nature athletically, but the thing that makes him so dominant is his technique. Mm-hmm. Like the way he knifes through blocks. He can, swim. He can rip through. He can knife. He can, he can spin. His
hands are quicker than anybody out there.
He's so many ways that he can get to a quarterback and beat and take away offensive linemen's leverage. So that's I find the skill and the technique is more important than necessarily the just sheer athleticism.
So with that in mind, so Kwity Paye, his weakness is his handwork. Rousseau's weakness is his handwork. Well, when they say bend, what do they mean bend? Does that mean like
that means they get
the edge?
They're high. They play high. They're not flexible.
Yeah, you've seen like how linemen when they're rushing the edge, they're able to get almost horizontal to the ground while still moving forward. That's your bend.
Yeah, and it allows them to get leverage on those bigger, stronger offensive linemen, so they can get under them and potentially get by him.
Patrick Jones, they say he has good rushing moves, but inconsistent bend. He has a burst and a motor.
But he's not. I don't think he's a first rounder. I don't think he's grading out as a first rounder right now.
No, he's not. But I mean,
hands are something I definitely look at, because if you're not good at using your hands, and keeping offensive linemen's hands off you, then you're going to get dominated. Because I mean, as a former offensive lineman, that's what I wanted. I wanted to get my hands on you, especially if you were small and quick, because I knew if I could sink my hands into your jersey and lock you in, you're not going to outrun me. I can force you where I need you to go.
So would you say if we go cornerback first round, should we do defensive end second round, third round maybe running back, fourth round quarterback? How would you sort of plot this out?
I think we should stop trying to plug holes, and we should take best player available in every single round.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because I mean, if you look across the board, let's look at the teams who have been good for years and decades. Let's look at the Patriots, the Ravens, the Packers, and we'll throw in a fourth in there, maybe like the
Seahawks.
The Seahawks, like Brett had stated, they don't draft well in round one. They draft well two and back.
Are we talking about?
But yeah, so we'll go Seahawks. We'll throw them in there. Even though they may have a hole in their team, very rarely, if it falls to their pick and like the best player for what at their positional need isn't the best player available on the board, barring like a quarterback, unless you're the Packers, they take the best player because they know that the more good football players you have on your team, the better your team is going to be.
Yeah.
So you don't just try and plug. You don't go, all right, well, we need a defensive end. We'll take the best one available right now. So we'll take Takk McKinley, even though there's 5 players still left on the board that are all rated higher than Takk McKinley was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's gotten us into this position to where we have deficits at a lot of positions of importance. We draft by need instead of by availability. Mm-hmm. And it's the national football team. There's enough injuries and there's enough snaps in this league that good football players are going to make their way onto the football field.
Yeah.
Especially on defense.
But to answer your question, so all right, say we get Surtain first. My round number 2 would either be if Najee Harris is there at the second round, pick 4, I'm taking Najee Harris. I mean, he'd be the best player available and at a position of need. So it just happens that they both coincide. But yeah, I'm taking him, and I can wait till the third round to potentially get a pass rusher. Or, I mean, I could trade back up into the second round if there's a decent pass rusher in the second round. But I mean, yeah, I'm probably going Najee Harris and then look for edge and then on whatever. So
I think your value for pass rushers this year is gonna be the middle rounds. That's where you're gonna get those guys. You're not gonna get your Khalil Max. You're not gonna get your JJ Watts this year, but you're definitely gonna get some guys like you said, Marco. There are gonna be some guys in this draft that are good, but they're not gonna be your superstars.
I'm just saying there'll be at least one Pro Bowler. There'll be at least one edge rush Pro. I feel like there's one in every draft, at least one.
Well, I mean, really a lot of like with Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers, the Patriots got him, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round, and they coached him up. And like I said, they used him very creatively because they moved him around. Sometimes he'd be at end, sometimes he'd be at a tackle. And like I said, how creative they are with pass rush, and they got him to the point where he was like Pro Bowler. And then they don't re-sign him. He goes to Detroit and just falls off. So
he hasn't fallen off, but he certainly hasn't been.
Well, he's not putting up those same numbers. Now he's not trash, but they're not as creative. Patricia wasn't as creative as using him as Belichick and them were. So,
which is weird because Patricia was his D coordinator.
Yeah, but I think Belichick's game planning determined a lot. He had a lot more control over the game plan and how he wanted players to be used versus Patricia. You know.
Yeah.
So.
So a quick personnel movement that's happened. It's been developing over the last couple of days that might actually change what happens in the NFL draft is the fact that Urban Meyer is rumored to take over the Jaguars. They're saying that he's already in the process of scouting and hiring staff.
That little weasel.
I can't stand that man for multiple reasons, but mainly his time at Florida, being a Florida State fan. So if he when he does take over the Jaguars, it seems, does that change who they take? Do you think he will still take Lawrence, or do you think Justin Fields could be the heir apparent down there now?
He'll take Lawrence.
You think so?
I don't think. I mean, I know that there's an Ohio State connection, but Urban has been away from the program. I mean, he's been a shadow puppet master, but he doesn't really have any intrinsic connection to Justin Fields, where I think it would sway his decision. Does he?
Remember, the guy that is there now was Urban Meyer's offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Ryan Day, I believe.
Yeah. So he has a direct pipeline to Justin Fields. He knows everything about Justin Fields. Because
maybe that'll make him not take him.
That's true. That was part of the question is like, does this change things, if at all?
Possibly. I think it could. If Trevor doesn't test as well as they thought, or doesn't look as well as they think he will in like the combine, and Fields just shows out, because I really think it's going to come down to combine or interviews for both, but for the two of them, because although Fields right now is seen as the number one, it's not as big of a gap as most would like to think. And, I think if Fields looks good enough in like combines and stuff like that, there's a chance Urban might go with him over Trevor. But I mean, as of right now, I think Trevor is still their number one option.
I mean, so it's a good question, because I mean, we know Urban Meyer, the teams that he's won natties with have always been a certain type of team, right? And Justin Fields is that type of quarterback that usually heads those teams. But at the same time, if you look at Trevor Lawrence, I feel like out the box, he's more of like that methodical, I can run your offense and pick your team apart in a Tom Brady kind of way. You know what I mean? Whereas Justin Fields is, just mega talented, just clutch, the ultimate competitor, but he doesn't necessarily have all those things together yet. So I don't know. It's an interesting question, but I think that Trevor Lawrence will still be the number one pick.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree, because I mean, since his junior year in high school, Trevor Lawrence this is what he was supposed to be, and he's lived up to the hype. He's done nothing to hurt his draft stock. Justin Fields has done everything to improve his draft stock, but I don't think he's eclipsed Lawrence yet. But if by chance the Jaguars pass on Fields, man, the Jets fans are gonna be celebrating so much, because they fell into a deep, dark depression after they won those two games. Because
then they'll take Kyle Trash.
They send the wrong name up to the podium. They're like, no.
Here's the funny thing, though, because I was talking to one of my coworkers about it, because he's still big. He still keeps up with the high school sporting scene. Like the fact that, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be Georgia's current quarterback, but when Justin Fields decided to go to Georgia, Lawrence decided to go to Clemson, because Justin Fields leapfrogged him their senior year for the number one quarterback in the country. And because it was Lawrence the whole time, and then Fields had such a great senior year that he leapfrogged Lawrence, and once he committed to Georgia, Lawrence was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm going to Clemson." So,
I don't think that's true.
I think we were one of the top. We were one of Lawrence's top teams that he was considering going to. And once Fields decided to go there, he just decided to go to Clemson. Because state of Georgia, he's a what's called? He's from
Cartersville.
Cartersville, yeah. So
and that's right there
Fields
by
went
Clemson too.
But from my knowledge, I'll just share my knowledge. Lawrence committed to Clemson in 2016. Long before that, he got leapfrogged, and he said that Clemson was his dream school. So,
that would have been
sounds like
that would have been 17 because he was there 17, 18. He was there 18, 19, and 20. So if he committed, so you're saying he committed 2 years
before. As a sophomore, yeah.
Right.
End of his sophomore year, he committed.
Well, that's true because on that QB1 show, he was already committed to Clemson.
Right.
Fields was already committed to Georgia.
That sounds like a Georgia fan's typical. We were supposed to get all the quarterbacks, but
with Kirby, and that was when Kirby coming, everybody was excited that we were getting Kirby Smart, and but that, yeah.
I will say though, that QB1 show, I hope it comes back because that is an amazing show for sort of predicting what these quarterbacks are going to do. Like from Justin Fields to Trevor, when Justin Fields pretty much outcompeted Trevor in that and beat him out, and then Spencer
Dilfer's
Rattler,
camp?
huh?
Is that Dilfer's camp?
Not Dilfer. What's his name? The dude who played Hasselbeck.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that show. I love that show. I hope they bring that back. I mean, I know COVID's messing this up, but that was an amazing show to see it would have been good to see like the guy that they're so high on at Georgia. What's his name? Brock or whatever.
Yeah. All right. So I've already put you guys in charge of the Falcons, but unfortunately, you will not be the next Falcons head coach and GM combo. As much as that would be cool for me because I would get into every game for free. That won't happen. So, Marco, I'm going to let you lead it off because I know yours is going to be scathing. Who is your leading? It's going to be hard to pick GM candidates. I know we kind of discussed it on the podcast last time. By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, we are Fish and Grits, the podcast. You can find us on all streaming platforms. That is Fish and Grits, the podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, here, obviously, and all the podcast streaming platforms. But if you want to listen to that episode, it was 2 episodes ago, I believe. Who do you want to be our next head coach and GM combination? You can leave GM blank if you want, because I know that's a hard one. And actually, who do you think is more important to get right first? Is it the head coach or the GM?
I think your head coach is probably more important because if a head coach is like certain about what they want to do, then the GM is sort of the facilitator of that. Because I think when there's a disconnect between those two, then you have a lot of what happened here, where TD is really good at picking groceries, and or maybe not that good at picking groceries. But Dan was good at evaluating. There was just a disconnect. It seemed like there was a slight disconnect, as opposed like I'll get you the talent, but what are you doing with that talent I got you? You know what I mean? Whereas if a coach is predetermined about exactly what he wants, then it's easier to sort of fill those spots. But then at the same time, it's like, say, because Bieniemy would probably be my number one candidate, but at the same time, we don't know what that looks like with him leading a team, or we don't know how much of his ingenuity comes from Andy Reid. We don't know. So but yeah, I definitely think a coach is more important, and I'd say Bieniemy is my number one candidate. But I told y'all before, I feel after the Saints have another heartbreaking choke, I just go up to Sean Payton and be like, "Yo, listen, bro, it's time. It's time to make a heel turn, get the steel chair, put it upside Drew Brees' head, and be like, take off your hat and be like, I'm a Falcon now, bitches now." But yeah, Bieniemy.
Micah, who you got?
Oh man. Yeah, that's tough. I do believe that the head coach is more important. Because while GM needs to be a good talent evaluator and good with, cap and stuff like that, and not emotional like Bill O'Brien was as GM, I believe that the ability to control the team and the whole situation and build your talent is the most important thing, because that's really where we've had our failures most. Is Dan Quinn did not develop the talent to the level of to maximize their potential. And I think that's why it's become so painfully obvious now that he's gone, and Raheem and Ulbrich have come in and gotten to make decisions that, like, especially like defensively, Dan Quinn's a defensive guy, and it took two other coaches taking over for us to see the potential of all of these guys that we've drafted. So, right, like I said, either I'm going Raheem and trying to keep and try to keep building on what we have and improving on what we have, or if they decide that we have to move on, Bieniemy is my number one option. So
If they decide.
well, I mean,
come on, man. Y'all don't really think Raheem's gonna get this job, or that he has a legit chance.
You'd be surprised.
I do
really,
honestly feel like he has a chance.
Yeah, I think he's one of their top candidates, and I believe either Raheem, like I said, in my opinion, I think Raheem, Bieniemy, or potentially what's the name, Salah or whatever, however you pronounce it.
I don't want him at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want him, but I think considering the way we're built right now, those are the three guys who they potentially would go after.
Dabo, let's go get Dabo.
No, especially after this year, as many times as Dabo is screwed up by running his mouth and stuff. Nah.
Number 11, huh? I would like Raheem back, but I'm not going to be heartbroken if he doesn't come back. Yeah. I would love to keep Ulbrich. I think Ulbrich has done wonders with the amount of defensive talent that we have. The linebackers, he's made 2 Pro Bowlers. The corners look tremendously different than they did before. But you just can't do much without a pass rush, especially in this day and age. So, GM, it's whatever. As long as he's good with money, that's all I care about. GM, that's all they really are money managers. You pick the players that your coaches want. You pick the players that your scouts pick. And we'll go from there.
He was great at. I mean, whoever gets
TD
him
was a great money manager. Yeah. That's why it's like, TD never came in here and said, this is the type of scheme we're going to run. This is the players we're going to pick. He just picked who the coach said to pick.
I think he did in the Mike Smith era. I think he had more reign over players in Mike Smith's era, because I don't know if Mike Smith.
You have proof of that though? I mean, it's
I don't know what Mike Smith's scheme was at all.
Jamal Anderson,
because it just changed. It was just like defensively, I don't know. We just throw darts at the board. Oh, this is a good player. Let's get him in here. And it was just, so it was, and not to mention, like, every draft pick was some like, oh, this guy from West Minnesota State. And it's like, wait, what? I didn't even know that was a college. Montana.
Must be geniuses.
Northeast Montana. Like, wait, what?
Yeah. So this will definitely be our last post-game report. You may see us jump on and do like a special for like the draft. Just depends. Depends what the draft's looking like and all that type of stuff. But this offseason is going to be an interesting one for sure. And there's going to be a lot of changes. I would not be shocked if you saw a lot of fan favorites moved or moved on from. And it just really depends on whoever is taking over, what they see the shelf life of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. That's the two pieces that this hinges all upon on. What's the shelf life that the coach sees there? Are they worth bringing back? If not, then the draft gets really, really interesting for us. So it's going to be a fun one, man. It's going to be one of those that you see, franchises change. Because right now, I think the Falcons' image is tarnished across the NFL. We're looked at as a losing franchise. We're looked at as a team who can't finish, and we just set a record, or we tied a record, proving such. So it's time to get it right, and it's time to get it right now, because Arthur Smith is an owner that you don't come across too often.
Arthur Blank.
Arthur Blank, yeah. What did I say? Just
Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith, someone just texted me something and I saw the word Smith. So Arthur Blank is the type of owner you don't come across too often. So, you need to take advantage of that willingness to win and that desire to win.
Quick question before we wrap up. Say we do get Justin Fields. Is there a precedent for a person? Do you think it's like too much pressure for a person to win in their home? Is there any precedent for that? Like a person gets drafted to their hometown team and does well?
Yeah. I mean, I think there is pressure, but I think what would help him is the fact that financially we can't move Matt yet, or at least not yet. So
you gotta restructure him.
Yeah. Chances are he's not gonna have to start day one. I think it would truly be pressure if you had him starting day one. But if he doesn't have to start day one, then it dramatically removes a lot of pressure off of him. So
yeah, I don't really see a history of NFL quarterbacks playing for their home. There's got to be players that play for their hometowns, but I can't think of any quarterbacks that have.
He's not from Alabama, but that was his. He's from Alabama, but his home playing with the Bucs was a bad experience for him.
Yeah. Jameis is going to be what happens to Jameis this offseason is going to be interesting. All right. Well, y'all got anything to send us out on for our inaugural season of the post-game report?
Just funny. All of our predictions got thrown out because they were so wrong.
Boy.
We would have been doing that in this episode, but they were all so wrong.
Optimism, man.
Even our guests, none of our guests were as pessimistic as they should have been.
Well,
not even close.
Lionel was by far the most pessimistic, and even he was still 2 games above too optimistic.
Right. He had us at the Patriots record.
I'm glad though. It was either playoffs or this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
There would have been. I couldn't do another 7-9 season. I couldn't do an 8-8 season because it would have been like, cool. We're going to be picking at 17.
Yeah. The purgatory, trying to rebuild in purgatory.
Right. So we are Fish and Grits, the podcast. Make sure to smash that like button, that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. Yeah, that'll do it for us. Thanks for tuning in on this episode. Thanks for tuning in all season. Again, you can find us on all streaming platforms. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. And buy our merch, man. We got some cool merch already up, and we got some coming out that'll be out here shortly. And go Texans. I want that number 3 pick.
Yep.
Alrighty, fellas. See yourselves out.
Yo, it's Micah and Texans. Go ahead and win this game because it's the Dolphins pick anyway. It doesn't matter for you. Just go ahead and win this game for us, please. Thank you. Thank you, Deshaun.
It's Marco, and make sure you look out for these upcoming episodes. In a yearly wrap up, we're gonna do a yearly wrap up sometime soon. So just keep a lookout for that. And yeah,
We'll do a draft one as well, more than likely, because we're all football junkies. All right, guys. I'm Ryan. We'll talk to you later. Once again, thank you for tuning in.